You know what, man? Getting a little deep in this thing. We, our life has been complex from the minute no other group came over here in this country like we did.
Came over
No,
and changed.
no other group has 300 or 400 years of what we had. Had we entered this country the way other ethnic groups entered, the Italians and your Americans, the German Americans, and all that, and had an opportunity to settle where we wanted to, we would probably have settled in the South because of the warm climate that we come from. We'd have been maybe farmers and this type of thing. But look what we would have brought with us. We'd have brought out those traditions with us. We'd have brought our names with us. We'd have brought everything that we needed in our community. We would have learned English. We'd have got naturalized like everybody else. We'd have went and learned the history of this country. We'd have had our own churches. We would have spread out and did things like other groups did. We would have sent back to Africa and brought in a nephew or a niece over to live with us. We'd have gotten that nephew or niece maybe in college. We'd all pulled up the community. We did pull together anyway coming up. We'd have pulled together and helped to encourage and do. We'd have met with the elders in the evening. Mr. Mac Mitchell, your father, my father, Mr. Ryan and all of them. They'd have had George and you, just like up on the hill, you and Son and Goodma, You ought to sit down and talk to the elders. You and Mr. Stevenson and your parents and all that type of stuff. They'd have called it. That's what they did in Africa. They followed those traditions, but we were completely wiped away from all that stuff. No other group has come in here and had to go through. Wouldn't it have been nice if we had settled, came through Ellis Island, settled where we wanted to settle, carried on all these traditions and all this type of stuff? Wouldn't that have been something? Have you ever stopped and thought about that?
I agree with you.
Huh?
I agree.
Then you can't compare us. They said the Italian Americans, they came over here and they lived all in. Yeah, we understand all that, but they still didn't come over here the way we came over
Yeah,
here.
we didn't bring anything with us.
We didn't. We couldn't.
Yeah.
We are between the devil and the deep blue sea.
Well, then in 1865, we were just thrown out there as a bunch of people with nothing at all.
And
Nothing,
what
no place to go.
what make it so worse is that we are still the most hated group in this country. Now y'all might not want to agree with that. African Americans
I agree.
are the most hated
Yeah.
of all. Anybody can do anything and wouldn't get the repercussions and the feeling that it would still be thrown back on us. We've tried everything. We have gone to war. We have never turned our back on this country. We've done everything that is required of us to do. What else do we need to do? Name a war that this country has fought that we didn't participate in, that we didn't lose lives and still come back to the same old segregation, discrimination. We really hate that name something that we haven't done and tried to do it right. We've done everything that we're supposed to do. Look what happened.
Well, you talk about the wars, and of course, the bullets don't have a name on them. Look at the people that we lost in the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, and you look at the World War One. And the reason I keep thinking about World War One is that the people came back, and the black veterans couldn't even join the American Legion. And in this particular community, they said, okay, if you don't want us, we'll have our own American Legion. And they did. And they did some good things. They helped each other and things like that. So, you know, a lot of that is spurned segregation, a whole bunch of it. But I don't think that, you know, we ought to let our children and grandchildren forget what we did. And there's so many of us willing to just say, well, it don't matter no more. But it did matter because it was part of our growing up and developing, you know, certain attitudes and everything.
But do you think that you agree with me about we are the lowest
I
on
agree
the
with
pole?
you. I agree with you.
Anytime you get a poor, uneducated white person. Now I'm not saying something just because they're poor. I'm not. Don't get me wrong, but anytime you take that individual that doesn't have anything at all, and like I said, white, poor, put himself above Obama. Do you understand where I'm coming
I understand. Yeah.
Know deep down within himself, because he's white, regardless of how poor I am, I'm still better than Obama.
Right.
That is deep. That is deep. And I don't think we'll ever crawl out of that hole.
Well, I'll go even a little bit further. It's deep hatred.
Yeah.
It's deep
Yeah.
hatred.
Yeah.
And now you're having, you know, congressmen talking about him present idiotic ideas and Sambo and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that shows disrespect
Yeah.
to have for African Americans, even after a person's gone through the citadel of learning, Harvard University, gotten a law degree,
Yeah.
was
I
on
know, yeah.
you know, everything.
Yeah. And then
But it shows you that there's still a lot of hatred,
yeah.
you know, for black folks.
It's this society has developed so that you can be any other color or group in this country. You're going to be a step ahead of African American, regardless. We saw that when we were coming up. You could go in there in a restaurant and see a person sitting in there that was unshaven, unclean, dirty, and everything, and then you see a World War I or World War II veteran going past that same place with a leg shot off or one arm or something, couldn't even go in there and sit down and get a cup of coffee, you know. And the very person that would raise sand by him coming out would be that poor, maybe white, you know, maybe undereducated or what have you, would lead the crowd to get you out of there.
You know, Jim, there has in Jefferson County, I think, there has been a sort of a relationship with the poor, white, and the blacks. I guess I think about over the mountain, because the people in the mountain,
Yeah.
not necessarily that they're all poor,
Right, right.
but they are almost 100% white. There has been a close relationship. 'Cause I think about Robert Carr, for example. You know, when none of the state police go up there, none of the sheriff would go up there, and they would send Robert Carr
Right.
up there, and he would walk into these white clubs, and they respected him, and they never ever messed with him. I can recall when I worked for Bill Hennessy, I used to go up there to help to repossess different things, and for some reason those people up in the mountain never ever threatened me.
There's a good relationship.
Good relationship.
Between the poor.
But then if another white person went up there, it had been a whole different story.
Yeah, that was true about over there in the mountain. Cause my father worked with a lot of them over there. You know, they'd go over there and we were little teeny kids. We'd go over there, we sit down and they eat. You know, right?
Right.
Yeah, it was a good relationship between us and those ones over in the mountain. They were treated bad too.
They were treated bad. They were treated bad.
They came here, yeah.
They were treated
Yeah.
bad, and I think they sort of relate with us. To
Yeah,
certain
I
things.
do too.
'Cause I think about they used to go down to James Russ to pitch horseshoes. That
Yeah.
same mountain group,
Right.
you know, that nobody else would look at.
And then there was a group of mountain guys that couldn't go in Jefferson Memorial swimming pool.
Yeah.
They couldn't. Yeah, they come down there. Them white kids would run them back to the mountain. Years ago, they say that after a certain time, if you lived in the mountain, you had to be off the streets in Charlestown. You better be heading back over in the mountain. You know, I'm not so much talking about them as I am about the fact that there were so many other people that really hated us, man.
Yeah.
I mean, hated our guts.
Well, you know, I heard for years and got it on good authority that if you did live on a mountain, a lot of teachers and principals treated you like dirt.
Oh yeah.
They treated you like dirt. And
You mean the mountain kids?
the mountain kids.
Yeah, I've heard that
Yeah.
too.
Well, they still be messed over in the mountain.
But
you know.
remember that mountain kid now was still a step over. He had ever
Yeah.
was up at one rung up at ladder higher than we were. And society's been doing that for years. They put minority groups against minority groups.
Yeah,
That's number
it
one.
does, yeah.
Then they take the poorest white and make sure that he knows 100% that he is over us. This is how you get your hate groups and your Ku Klux and all that. Most of them, they're the result. And the white people with the money and stuff, paying them. You know, they took care of them. You know, y'all keep this group going. And you see a bunch of them going out and hanging.